This happened in October of last year, around the 21st. I know that because I had just started a new job and wanted to go on one last camping trip before winter hit. I live in western Pennsylvania, and there's a patch of forest near the Allegheny River that barely sees foot traffic. Private land technically, but nobody really checks. I got there around 2 p.m., parked off an old maintenance road, and hiked in maybe a mile or two with my gear. It was perfect, quiet, crisp air, leaves everywhere. I set up camp, cooked dinner, and by dusk, I had a small fire going. Around 8:30 p.m., I noticed something weird. No bugs. Like, none. No buzzing. No chirping. Just the fire crackling and distant rustling that I told myself was raccoons. At 9:12, I checked my watch. I heard what sounded like a snap, like a branch underfoot, maybe 20 yards out. I turned off my lantern and listened. Nothing for a full minute. Then, a second snap, closer. I said loudly, "Hey, just me out here. I've got a flashlight and bear spray." Silence. Then something about the silence changed. It's hard to explain. Not quieter, emptier. Like I suddenly became aware of how alone I actually was. I barely slept. Every little sound had my heart pounding. Sometime after 3 a.m., I swore I heard someone exhale right outside the tent. Just one breath. Then nothing. I got up at sunrise, packed everything in under 10 minutes, and started hiking back. No breakfast, no fire, just gone. About halfway to the car, I noticed a tree about 5 feet off the trail with fabric nailed to it. It was gray and dirty, looked like an old hoodie sleeve. Below it, a little wooden shelf had been nailed to the trunk, with a few dead insects lined up carefully in a row. I didn't stop. I didn't take a picture. I just walked faster. When I got back to my car, there was a plastic grocery bag tied to my driver's side mirror. Inside, a deer jawbone and a note that just said, "Leave it." I haven't been back. I reported it anonymously to the local sheriff's office, but they never followed up. I know what I heard that night, and I'm almost certain I wasn't the only one camping in those woods. Last fall, I took a short solo camping trip to clear my head after a breakup. I left Pittsburgh around noon on October 4th and drove out to Forbes State Forest, about 2 hours southeast. I'd been to this spot once before with a friend, so I figured it was safe enough to go alone. I set up camp by 4:30 p.m., just a small tent near an old logging trail. It was peaceful. The leaves had started turning, the air was crisp, and there was that familiar damp, earthy smell that hits you when you're deep in the woods. Around dusk, I decided to walk a bit farther down the logging trail. I left my backpack and just brought a flashlight and a bottle of water. About 10 minutes in, I saw this shallow pit off to the left of the trail. The dirt looked fresh, loose, a different color than the surrounding soil. And there was a smell, like rot. I assumed it was an animal, maybe a deer carcass buried by scavengers or hunters. I didn't poke around. I kept walking another 5 minutes, then turned back. Here's where it got weird. When I passed the pit on the way back, there was now a black plastic trash bag partially sticking out of the dirt. I hadn't seen it before, I'm 100% sure. The top was twisted shut, and something inside looked bulky. I froze. It was that kind of fear that starts in your chest and radiates outward. I didn't touch it. I didn't take a photo. I just walked fast, didn't run, because I didn't want to hear someone running behind me. Back at my site, I was packing up when I heard something. The sound of a shovel hitting the ground. Not loud, just thunk, thunk. Slow, deliberate. It was coming from the trail. I killed my lantern, left the tent and most of my gear, and walked in the opposite direction with my flashlight off. After about 20 minutes, I reached my car and drove straight to a gas station. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't report it. I went back the next morning with a ranger, just said I saw a bear or something. But when we got to the spot, the dirt was packed tight, and there was no trash bag. Nothing. Just undisturbed ground. He probably thought I was hungover or lying. I haven't gone camping since. But sometimes, when I think about that night, I wonder what would have happened if I had opened the bag. Or worse, if I'd stayed long enough to see who put it there. This happened last fall, in late October. I live in a rural part of Pennsylvania, and I hike often, mostly alone. There's this trail behind my grandfather's old property that cuts deep into state game lands. Not many people know about it. He called it the Old Path, said it used to be a shortcut for trappers back in the day. I'd been down it maybe twice before. I went out around 3:45 p.m., just before golden hour. The air smelled like wet leaves and pine. The sky was clear, and the sun filtered through the trees like fire. I had my earbuds in, playing a podcast, but I kept one out in case I heard deer or coyotes. I wanted to be alert. About 40 minutes in, I noticed something weird. There were boot prints in the mud. Not old ones, either. Deep, recent. I crouched down to look closer. They didn't match mine. Bigger, wider gait. Probably a man. It didn't creep me out at first. It's public land. But as I kept walking, I noticed the prints veered off the path into the woods at a sharp angle. Like whoever it was wanted to leave the trail quickly. 10 minutes later, I saw something hanging from a low tree branch ahead, a flannel shirt. Red and black. Torn, like it had been snagged. I stopped. It looked fresh, and it was weirdly quiet. No birds. Just wind and the occasional creak of branches. Then I caught a whiff of something. Faint, but enough to turn my stomach, like iron. Or rotting meat. I backed up slowly, heart thumping, and turned to head back. That's when I heard the snap. A single twig, maybe 30 feet off the trail, to my left. I froze. The woods were too dense to see anything clearly, but I swear I felt something watching me. The kind of pressure you can't explain, just there. I didn't run. I just walked fast. Controlled. The way you do when you're trying not to spook a bear. I glanced behind me a couple times. Nothing. When I got back to the car, it was almost 5:30 p.m. Sun was setting. As I unlocked the door, I noticed something in my side mirror. A shape, maybe 50 yards down the trailhead. Standing still. It looked like a man. But when I turned around, there was nothing. I haven't gone back since. 2 weeks later, a hunter in the area found an abandoned campsite not far off that same trail. No tent, just gear, and a boot. One boot, half buried in the leaves. They never found the owner.